It was a Saturday afternoon, the kind where the air hung heavy with that false calm before another family storm. My daughter Amelia, 7, curious, too kind for her own good, was sitting on the porch steps, swinging her legs, humming some song she made up. I was in the kitchen washing dishes, pretending that if I kept my hands busy, my thoughts wouldn't break me. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. Dad was in his chair, that same battered recliner that had seen more yelling than laughter, scrolling on his phone like it was a royal artifact. He hated interruptions. To him, silence wasn't peace. It was power. Every breath you took in his house was borrowed. Amelia, innocent as she was, tiptoed closer. She didn't mean any harm. She just wanted to show him the butterfly she'd caught. Her small hand brushed his phone as she tried to set the bug jar beside him. That's all it took. The sound came first, that sharp crack of anger snapping through the air. I turned, soap still on my hands, and saw his face twist into something I couldn't even recognize as human. "What did I tell you about touching my things?" His voice was so loud the window panes shook. "Dad, she didn't mean—" I tried to say, but it was too late. He grabbed Amelia by the hood of her little sweatshirt and yanked her so hard her feet left the ground. She screamed, terrified, her hands clawing at his wrist. I dropped the dish and ran, but before I could reach them, he dragged her across the yard like she was nothing. A rag doll, a mistake. Her knees scraped against the dirt, her hair flying across her face. "That's what happens," he spat, eyes blazing, "when trash touches gold." I froze. I'd heard him say cruel things to me before. Worthless, leech, mistake. But hearing him say that to my child, it shattered something deep. Mom stood at the doorway, arms crossed, not even blinking. She didn't tell him to stop. She just muttered, "Maybe now she'll learn some respect." "Respect?" I screamed, rushing to Amelia and pulling her close. "She's 7, for God's sake!" Dad smirked. "And already acting like her mother, grabbing things that don't belong to her." The words hit harder than his kicks ever could. Amelia was sobbing against me, trembling so hard I could feel her heartbeat through her chest. Her knees were bleeding, little pebbles stuck in the cuts. I looked up at the man who used to be my father, and all I saw was a stranger who enjoyed breaking people smaller than him. I carried her inside, my arms shaking, every nerve burning with rage and helplessness. He shouted after me, "Don't give me that look. One day you'll thank me for teaching her early. This world doesn't reward weakness." But I knew the truth. The world doesn't reward monsters either. That night, I sat beside Amelia as she slept, her hoodie still dirty, the tear streaks dried on her cheeks. I traced my fingers along the bruises on her arm and made myself a promise. Not the kind whispered through tears, but the kind carved in bone. This time, I wouldn't just leave. This time, I'd make sure he'd never have the chance to hurt her, or anyone, again. When I looked out the window and saw Dad's phone glowing on the table where he'd left it, something inside me shifted. I didn't know yet what I'd do, but I knew it wouldn't be quiet. The world might have taught me fear. But he was about to learn regret. That night didn't end with silence. It ended with breathing that felt borrowed. Amelia whimpered in her sleep, her little chest hitching every few seconds like her body couldn't forget what fear felt like. I sat by her side, wide awake, my hands trembling, the metallic taste of rage filling my mouth. Every few minutes, my mind replayed it, his hand gripping her hoodie, her feet dragging helplessly, her cry breaking the sky open. My father had hit me before, slapped me, kicked me, thrown things. But this was different. He had touched her. The next morning, he acted like it never happened. He sat at the breakfast table, scrolling his phone again, smirking at something on the screen. Mom fried eggs like she was performing some ritual to erase what we saw. When Amelia walked in, limping a little, clutching her toy rabbit, he looked up and said, "Morning, Princess. Still mad about yesterday?" "You'll get over it." I nearly dropped my cup. "Princess?" I said, voice low. "You dragged her across the yard." He looked at me, eyes cold. She's fine. You coddle her too much. You turned her soft. You were soft too. Look how that turned out. Mom chuckled softly. He's right, Riley. Maybe this one will grow a spine before she ends up like you. Like me. The disappointment. The single mother. The one who worked 2 jobs while my brother got the car. The support. The future. Something snapped in me right then. Not like before, not broken, but sharp. Clean. Focused. I stopped crying after that morning. I started studying my father the way I studied code. Every pattern, every weakness. His habits. His passwords. The things he didn't know I already knew. For weeks, I watched. I didn't argue when he insulted me. I didn't react when he called Amelia a useless shadow. He thought he'd broken me again. He had no idea he'd just trained me to notice everything. His phone, the one he called gold, wasn't just gold. It was his whole world, his contacts, his transactions, his dirty little secrets. I'd seen him meet strangers at diners, whisper deals about cash jobs and no receipts. I'd overheard him bragging to my mother about money he never paid taxes on, about names he used that weren't his. Trash doesn't touch gold, he'd said, but gold leaves fingerprints, and I'd learned how to trace every one. Afternoon, while Mom and Dad were at church pretending to be respectable, I walked into their house with Amelia. I told her to sit on the porch and color. I slipped inside, went straight to the table where his phone usually sat charging. I plugged it into my laptop. It took less than 10 minutes. Every hidden file, every fake name, every unreported transaction. I downloaded all of it. When he came home that night, I greeted him with a smile so calm it made him suspicious. "What are you so happy about?" he asked. "Just life," I said. "You taught me so much about it." He smirked, thinking it was submission. I walked away before I said what I really meant. "You're about to choke on your lessons." Over the next few weeks, I worked quietly. Between shifts at the cafe and bedtime stories with Amelia, I built something. A chain of evidence. Every file, every account, every illegal purchase under his friends' names. The man who called us trash was knee-deep in dirt. I didn't go to the police yet. That would have been too easy. I wanted him to feel powerless first, so I let it slip. A few neighbors started whispering. Someone found out his side business wasn't exactly legal. A few weeks later, a man came to the house, banging on the door, yelling about missing money. Mom panicked. Dad shouted, slammed the door, and stormed through the house, cursing everyone he knew. "Did you tell anyone?" He barked at me. I looked him dead in the eye. "Why would I? Trash doesn't talk to gold." His face went pale. For the first time, fear flickered there. He didn't say another word. That night, he called people frantically, whispering threats, making promises, begging for help. His phone didn't stop buzzing for hours. I sat on the porch, listening to the chaos I'd quietly set in motion. Amelia sat beside me, her small hand tucked into mine. "Mom," she whispered, "is Grandpa mad again?" I squeezed her hand. "He's just realizing what happens when you hurt good people." But I wasn't done. The next morning, I mailed a copy of every file, every bank record, every transaction, to a man I'd overheard him talking about once. Someone he owed, someone who didn't forgive easily. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't quiet. It was justice delivered by the same hands he once tried to break. 2 weeks later, the house went dark. Literally. The power shut off. Cars stopped showing up. His friends stopped answering calls. The money he bragged about disappeared. Mom's voice started shaking every time the phone rang. Then came the night they showed up. 3 men, hard faces, hard voices, asking for Henry. My father's voice trembled for the first time I'd ever heard. He tried to act tough, but they laughed. "Funny," one said. "You don't sound like gold now." I watched from the shadows, heart pounding but calm. He wasn't hurt, not physically, but his power evaporated in that moment. The man who called us trash was suddenly begging. The next day, he came to my door. For the first time in my life, he knocked. When I opened it, he looked smaller, older, broken in a way no words could repair. "Riley," he said quietly, "I just need a place to stay, just for a few days." I leaned against the frame. Amelia peeked from behind me, clutching her toy rabbit. "Sorry," I said, voice even. "We don't let trash touch gold." And I closed the door. Inside, Amelia looked up at me, eyes wide. "Mom, are we safe now?" I smiled through the sting in my chest. "Yeah, baby, we finally are." Outside, I could hear him still knocking, slower now, weaker, but the sound didn't hurt anymore. It was just proof that monsters can fall. The next morning, the knocking stopped. I woke up to sunlight pouring through the curtains, to Amelia's small feet pattering across the floor, to the silence of peace that I hadn't heard in years. For a while, I thought maybe that was it. Maybe karma had finally done its work. But when I opened the blinds, I saw him again. My father, sitting at the end of the driveway, head slumped forward, one hand clutching his old flip phone like it still held the power he'd lost. He'd slept there, all night, in the cold. For a moment, I froze. My body remembered what it was like to obey, to step outside and help. Then Amelia's voice broke through the memory. "Mom, can we have pancakes?" That small question grounded me. The answer wasn't about pity anymore. It was about protection. "Sure, baby," I said, pulling her into a hug. "You've earned every sweet thing in this world." While she stirred the batter, I peeked out the window again. Mom was standing next to him now, still dressed in her nightgown, whispering something sharp. They looked smaller than I remembered, not just in body, but in presence. The house they'd built around control had crumbled, and for the first time I didn't feel trapped inside it. I felt free outside it. By noon, they came to the door. Again. Mom was the one who spoke this time. Her voice was cracked, hoarse, but not apologetic. "We've fallen on hard times, Riley," she said. "Your father, he's lost everything. We need a place to stay, just until things get back on track." Amelia stood behind me, peeking through the crack in the door. She didn't hide. She didn't cower. Her chin was raised, that same quiet strength she'd grown from surviving their cruelty. I stared at Mom for a long time. "You mean the man who dragged her by the hood across the yard?" I asked, voice calm but low. "The one who called her trash?" Mom sighed like I was being dramatic. "You've always held grudges. You don't understand how hard it is for him. He's family, Riley." "Family doesn't bleed family," I said flatly. Her jaw tightened. "You're really going to leave your own parents on the street?" I smiled. "I didn't leave you there. You built it for yourselves." I shut the door. It wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was the first boundary of my life that didn't hurt to draw. Later that night, I saw the glow of flashlights outside. Dad rummaging through his old car, Mom yelling at him. I didn't move. I didn't intervene. I tucked Amelia into bed and told her, "Grandpa and Grandma are going on a trip." She giggled sleepily. "Are they coming back?" I kissed her forehead. "Not here." Days passed. The calls started, unknown numbers, begging ones. I didn't block them. I just let them ring. Each one was an echo of every time I'd cried for help and been told to deal with it. A week later, I got a letter. Not an apology, just a plea. "Riley, your father's sick. We have nowhere to go. Please, for your daughter's sake, help us." For her sake. The same daughter they once dragged across the dirt like garbage. That night, I sat in my small kitchen, the letter spread on the table, the quiet hum of the fridge filling the space between memory and mercy. I thought about all the years I spent begging them to see me, to see her. I thought about the bruises that faded and the ones that didn't. Then I picked up my pen and wrote back. "You once told me trash doesn't touch gold. Turns out you were right. I'm not touching what ruined me. The girl you broke, she's doing just fine without you." I folded the letter, sealed it, and left it outside their old mailbox. No return address. Just the final silence they'd earned. Months later, I heard they'd moved, some rundown town upstate. Word spread that Dad was working odd jobs, that Mom was taking care of him. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just breathed deeper, knowing the world finally balanced itself. One afternoon, while driving Amelia home from school, she spotted a man on the sidewalk selling handmade toys. He looked tired, worn. She didn't know it was her grandfather. I did. "Mom," she said, holding up the toy. "He smiled when I said thank you." I nodded. "That's good, baby. Be kind even when people weren't kind to you." She smiled, proud. "Like you?" I looked at her reflection in the rearview mirror, those bright, forgiving eyes that didn't carry my past. Exactly like me. The light turned green. As we drove away, I didn't look back. Not once. The past was behind me, bruised, broken, begging, and I was finally driving toward a life where no one would ever drag her, or me, through the dirt again. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.